Hi, welcome to episode 3. We're going to be talking about 3 wildcard games that happened today and our reactions to them. First game, I'm Nishant, and joining me is Ayush. First game is the Ravens Titans game. The Ravens won this game 20-13, and the reason they were able to win was because they limited Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson didn't have a spectacular game, but he did what we had to do to win, and he played exceptionally well for the situation he was in. What do you think about this game?
Well, throwing the ball, he wasn't anything spectacular, less than 200 yards and an interception. That's nothing special. And actually, a large percentage of his yards went to only one receiver. But he was a force running the ball. He ran for almost 10 yards a carry for 136 yards and a touchdown. Whereas Derrick Henry, who was the best rusher in the league for the past 2 seasons now, he averaged like 2 yards a carry for only 40 yards. So the rushing offense of the Ravens, it surely showed up. But this game, even though it was 7 points, it was close all the way up until the end. I think Ryan Tannehill threw an interception on a drive that would have tied the game. So if you're the Ravens, it's good that you got the win. Titans were a good team. It's good, like it's nice they won, but I won't be too happy with this win if I'm the Titans. I mean the Ravens.
Yeah, one thing I'd say though is Justin Tucker also missed a field goal, which kind of changed the momentum and gave the Titans a field goal on the other side.
Yeah, it
And
doesn't happen. Justin Tucker missing a field goal doesn't happen too often.
yeah, um, I feel like the Ravens defense really came to play today, and they kind of won them the game. Their offense needs to step up, especially uh, going against Buffalo next week. Because their defense won't be able to play like this again. Because it's hard to replicate that consistency that they had today on their defensive side of the ball, especially Derrick Henry only having like 2 yards per carry. That's really
It's
amazing, but
going to
it's
be
just not going to
really
be
hard to replicate
consistent.
because how different they're going to have to be. Stopping Derrick Henry is a lot different than stopping Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. So like you need a different part of your defense to step up. In this case, you really need that the defensive line to be dominant and get to Derrick Henry before you can get momentum. Whereas in against the Ravens, not Ravens, the Bills, for example, you're going to need to shut down Stephon Diggs and all those guys. They don't really have the best run game in the world. So
Yeah. What was interesting was I think Lamar's 49-yard rushing touchdown really kind of changed the momentum of this game. The Titans were actually up 10-0, and the Ravens scored 17 unanswered points. That was really the momentum changer, and without that touchdown, I feel like the Ravens wouldn't have won this game. Um, One thing I'd say though is the Ravens offense really needs to play better to go against the Bills, and um, the Bills also have exceptionally good passing game, and the secondary kind of needs to step up, even though they played exceptionally well today. As Marlon Humphrey kind of gave up a few catches early on, especially to AJ Brown, and going against Diggs, he can't have that issue because Diggs is a step higher than AJ Brown.
yeah. So I think this while Lamar Jackson's really good rushing the ball, the Ravens offense they did put up 400 yards and they put up 20 points, but it wasn't a spectacular game. But their ability to rush the ball might be a little bit interesting because they had the ball for 34 minutes almost, and against a team like Buffalo, you're going to need to keep the ball for as long as possible. So they've been the best rushing team this season, and I think you said they were the best of all time for the last 4 or 5 games, or in that 4 game stretch. So that'll be important. Their defense again has to show up, but and now they've also got momentum. You can't understate the value of momentum where they've been winning a few games. Lamar Jackson's been coming up clutch, and now the Tennessee Titans were a team that sort of had a mental edge over them, but not anymore because in the playoffs now they've knocked them out, and they held Derrick Henry to only a few yards.
Can I tell you an interesting stat? The Ravens actually led the league in point differential. It just kind of shows that when they kind of get hot, they can get rolling. You know what I mean? And they need to. They're one of those teams where if they get off to an early lead, they normally win, and if they get behind, they normally lose. And although this game was a different game than normal, against the Bills, they really need to get up and start taking a lead early so that they don't get behind. You know what I mean?
But even in this game, they were down 10-0 at the end of the first. So I mean, they s- they were able to. They just need momentum plays. I mean, how energizing must it be to see Lamar Jackson, like for example, run for 50 yards and a touchdown? So I think they just need momentum plays, or that's what they really like feast on, and then it'll be really interesting to see how they're gonna play up in Buffalo, mainly because they're gonna need to get to the quarterback here. Well, although Ryan Tannehill is probably an above average quarterback, Josh Allen's been looking top five, maybe even top three this season. So it'll just be really interesting to see if they can coach well and they can all show up next week.
Yeah. Also, Lamar actually threw a pick on his first or second pass attempt this game, and I was really impressed with the way he improved his passing as the game went on because uh, most young quarterbacks they kind of when they throw a pick they kind of get pressured and they start continue making mistakes. But he kept his cool and he won them the game, so that was pretty impressive as well.
So do you think the so one of the narratives going into the playoffs is that Lamar Jackson's going to need to showcase his arm talent and beat the other teams throwing the ball, which he historically hasn't been able to do. How do you think about this game and how they'll do in the next game? Because in this game, he had almost as many yards rushing as he did passing, and he had almost as many carries as he had pass completions. So, do you think do you think this will continue in the next game, or will he really have to step up and make the throws, which he didn't have to in this game?
Um, I think he will need to step up and make the throws, and he also needs to replicate his running consistency going forward because in order to beat these good teams, you really need to keep, like you said earlier, you really need to keep the ball in your possession like they did today, and that actually involves a lot of running. So it goes both ways. But if you end up getting into a shootout with Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, if he eventually beats Josh Allen, he will really need to pass the ball because those guys can really put up 40 points a game pretty easily, and uh, that's something that might be tough for the Ravens. All right, do you want to move on to the Saints Bears game?
Sure.
So I was pretty impressed with the Saints on defense, especially. They're missing Trey Hendrickson, who is their number one sacker and tied for Aaron Donald for the number two sacks in the league, and they still pretty much locked out the Bears until the last play where the Bears scored a touchdown. Um, the Saints offense didn't really play that well, but they did what they needed to do to win, and yeah, that's what I'll say. What did you think about the game?
I mean, it wasn't anything impressive. Um, everyone fully expected the Saints to beat the Bears. They were, along with Washington, the two teams that were sort of misfits among the NFL playoffs. And um, I think I'm not going to say you need a blowout because every team is playing as hard as they possibly can. So although you would like a nice, easy win, a win's a win, and you take it. They had a two-score win, which is nice. But something I saw that was pretty important was how they can integrate Michael Thomas back into that mix because Michael Thomas is going to be really key. He's going to be a key part in them taking on the Rams because you never know how Alvin Kamara and these guys are going to fare against Aaron Donald and that Rams D line. And then you need someone like Michael Thomas, who last year was statistically the best receiver. Not last year, year before, was the best receiver, and you need him to, make the plays on someone like Jalen Ramsey. And not only will he maybe get some yards on Jalen Ramsey and stuff, he'll also free up other guys like Emmanuel Sanders because of the attention he draws. So instead of Jalen Ramsey or whoever their best defensive backs and safeties are going on someone like Emmanuel Sanders, he'll sort of be a distraction, allowing them to possibly do better.
One thing I'd say though, they're actually playing the Buccaneers instead of the Rams. Um,
Oh yeah, my
but
bad.
uh, one thing that's pretty impressive about their game was um, until the last play, they held the Bears to 3 points, and their offense pretty much was just kind of rolling, even though they weren't necessarily dominating in the sense that they were converting a lot of third downs, and that's really important going into the playoffs because it just shows that you're able to drop plays, and they weren't relying on Michael Thomas. They were spreading the ball around to so many different receivers, including the running backs, and that's something you need in the playoffs because unlike the NBA, it's really important to have a spread of receivers like Tom Brady kind of showed his years in New England, and That's what they're kind of doing in this offense. Although this was
So
just a
how do you
game.
think they'll fare
uh,
against the Buccaneers?
I think I was really impressed with the way their defense played because, like the Buccaneers game against Washington, Washington was a number two defense and or number three, and the Buccaneers put up 33 points on them, um, or 31. And the Saints defense needs to play again like this in order to stop Tom Brady. And I feel like they're able to fare against Tom Brady pretty well because the Buccaneers defense didn't look that great against Taylor Heineke. And with the Saints offense coming in, especially with that O line, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, I can see them beating the Buccaneers.
So
Uh,
to me, the key to them winning that game would simply be someone like Michael Thomas again making plays because the the Saints. I mean, the Saints have destroyed the Chiefs in the the Buccaneers in the regular season, and in the first quarter of the Chiefs game, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and these guys they roasted the secondary. So it really comes down to how can these guys, can Drew Brees make the throws and can Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas make the catches? Because while I would be somewhat afraid of Alvin Kamara and that run defense, the Buccaneers blitz more than anyone, which makes them uh, better suited to play against the run, and they are the number two run defense. And something that really killed them in that Washington game was uh, the quarterback running. And Drew Brees isn't really a threat unless they bring Taysom Hill out for a few plays. Uh, Drew Brees isn't really too big of a factor in the run game, so they should have him under wraps in that way. And I think it really comes down to who can put up more points because Marshawn Lattimore and all the guys on the Saints side, and also the Saints with their front four guys not having to blitz as much and still do it and still get pressure. That allows more guys to be devoted to slowing down the platoon of receivers that Tampa Bay's got.
yeah, this doesn't really pertain to the Buccaneers game per se, but if you look at the Bears, David Montgomery was one of the best performing running backs throughout to the end of the season, and uh, he got limited to 31 yards on 12 carries, and the Saints had a lead early, and they just stopped the run game throughout the game, and it just shows how important your run game is, even in the way the NFL is now. I think Patrick Mahomes is probably the only quarterback that can win without a run game sustainable, because um, the a run game just brings you that different aspect, and it brings you the play action passes. And without the run game, you seem to be always falling behind.
Running is a
All right.
lot safer. Like the chances of someone fumbling are much lower than someone throwing an interception or a few incompletions or something. And they also tire out the defense a bit more, having to pound the ball. I mean, having to commit to stopping the run as much. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it really works both ways. If you've got someone like Patrick Mahomes or maybe even Josh Allen throwing the ball, Aaron Rodgers also, then you fear the guy throwing the ball a bit more, so you might concentrate on them, and that allows the running backs to be more effective.
Yeah. If you look at almost all the playoff wins this week, um, it kind of shows how important the run game is because although the Bills and the Buccaneers didn't have exceptional run games in their wins, they had a really good quarterback play, and it's gonna be hard to replicate that um, going into the playoffs. And you need to have a sustainable run game in order to win these games.
So
Uh,
how do you think they're going to fare against the Buccaneers? Like,
yeah,
who do you think is
I
winning
think
that?
I personally think the Saints are gonna win that because I have a lot of confidence in the Saints going forward, especially in their defense. Their offense looks to me that they don't have to do too much in order to take a win. Although against a team like the Packers or Buccaneers, they may need to put up around 30 points, and I still feel like they're able to do that because they have so many weapons. I didn't even name Jared Cook. Deontay Harris has been playing really good. Their team is just loaded, and they have a top five, maybe top three offensive line as well, which makes the running lanes easier for Kamara. Kamara's also maybe the best receiving back in the game right now, and that's a pretty impressive title as well.
Yeah, he's going to really help them out with being able to catch the ball and then keep running afterwards, sort of simulate the run game just with less defenders ahead of him. All right, let's move on to the Browns Steelers game. What are your thoughts?
Um, this game is all about momentum. Cleveland got out to an early lead and they just never looked back. They started off with the fumble that it was really similar to the fumble that Peyton Manning had in Super Bowl against the Seahawks, where the fumble went right over Ben Roethlisberger's head. Right after that play, Cleveland just went off, and they seemed like they could just never. Pittsburgh could just never get back into the game. Although Ben Roethlisberger had a really impressive stat line, it was more because he was just far behind, and they weren't able to develop the run game at all. And uh, it just seemed like Cleveland had a win. Although Ben Roethlisberger also had 4 picks, and you can't just have that in a playoff game in order to take a win. You know?
Well, I couldn't. At first I agreed with you about the momentum thing. This game was all about momentum, but then I'm gonna have to disagree with the Browns never looking back, because I think at one point it was a 12-point game, and with like a few minutes left in the third quarter, and the Steelers were looking to be right back in it. It gave me a reminder of Super Bowl 51, where they were up 25, and yet no matter what, they just kept coming back. It was even the same score, 28-3. 28 minus 3 is 25, 35 minus 10 is also 25. So it sort of gave me a reminder of that. And I thought maybe the Steelers are going to pull it off. And they really had momentum. Even the commentators, like, you can't define momentum, but I can feel it here. And up until that, like, I think a 40, 50-yard touchdown pass to Nick Chubb, the Steelers were right in that game. But and I think I was pretty impressed with how TJ Watt was stopping the run. But like it just goes to show how a small block on the guy, like just slightly slowing down the guy who was supposed to cover Nick Chubb, can completely alter a game. And then afterwards, the momentum shifted back to the Browns after their hot start, and they never looked back.
Yeah. This game actually kind of reminds me of the Titans Ravens game from last year, even though it wasn't the Ravens and Titans didn't score as much because Lamar Jackson is kind of in the Ben Roethlisberger role where he's getting so many yards, getting so many passes, like just putting up, but he would just keep on not getting to that level, not getting to like the amount of points that the Titans were getting to, and it just seemed like even though he seemed to have an amazing game, they just couldn't um, get to the point that the Browns were getting to. The Steelers defense really just wasn't playing that well. They were advertised as an amazing defense, and although the offense came to play today, I really feel like their defense should improve.
What do you mean their
The Browns
offense
were
came to play today? They had 5 turnovers.
yeah they had 5 turnovers, but
They still put up a lot of
the
points. That's what you
the
mean.
Browns yeah the Browns were also like if you watch them on offense, they were getting these like deep plays. And the Steelers were getting 3 and outs, but they were also giving up a few deep threes, like the 50-yard Jarvis Landry touchdown, the 50-yard Nick Chubb touchdown. They needed like big plays can kind of determine a game, and although the Browns necessarily weren't playing as well, they were getting so many big plays that it kind of just like kept on giving them leads, you know.
Yeah. So, how do you think the Browns are going to fare against the Chiefs? Personally, I think they're the second best team in the AFC equipped to take down the Chiefs. I'm not going to say they're the best because Josh Allen, the Bills have looked amazing recently, but they're right up there because of their run game and their run blocking. It is sort of the blueprint against the Kansas City, who are so talented that even if you have like a top tier defense, it really won't do much in the way of slowing them down. Like at best you're going to slow them down. You certainly won't stop them. And I think running the ball and just keeping the ball out of Mahomes' hands is very, very important. And with two guys who can run the ball incredibly well, you can just keep running every single play. You don't have to worry about, your back having to rest and then seeing like a drop in yards per carry or something. Because Kareem Hunt is also a really great player. What do you think?
Um, I personally, when I first saw the game, I was thinking they may have a chance, but honestly, I feel like the Chiefs, the way the Steelers are able to pass the ball today, Ben Roethlisberger having 500 yards. I think the Chiefs, like Mahomes, should probably have a great game against the Browns, and unless the Browns are able to force a lot of turnovers and kind of get to the early lead like today, I don't really see them beating the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a step above the Steelers in offense for sure, and Mahomes won't be making these types of issues like turnovers that Ben Roethlisberger makes. So I just don't see the Browns being able to keep in pace with the Chiefs in this game.
I mean, I sort of agree that about the yards thing, but you have to consider he had 70 pass attempts. 70. So like Patrick Mahomes isn't gonna
Okay,
get 70 pass attempts.
yeah, no. What I'm saying is, almost every single possession the Steelers were kind of driving through their passing, and if they're able to do this, I'm not going to say the Chiefs are going to be able to get as many yards because of course he's not going to get that many pass attempts, but the Chiefs should be able to also drive against this defense, especially in a stadium like Arrowhead. It's not in Cleveland. I feel like the Chiefs have all these advantages, and with also one extra week of rest, and Mahomes not even playing in 2 weeks, he's going to be fresh. And with the Browns coming in playing two rough games against the Steelers in a row, I just don't see them being able to beat the Chiefs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say they are going to, but I'm saying they have a pretty good shot, like at least the best shot amongst other teams aside from the Bills, and they've also got momentum. I mean, 48 points on on arguably the greatest franchise in football history. That's and a divisional a team in your division that's always been better than you, especially recently, where they're a perennial playoff team, and at least in the past you've been a perennial team for perennial lock for the number one overall pick or at least top five.
Yeah. One thing that's pretty impressive to me is just how good Baker Mayfield played. I remember us talking about how Odell Beckham was maybe like a negative effect on their offense due to the amount of interest and like attempts he takes from Baker Mayfield. It just kind of shows that Baker Mayfield is actually a pretty good quarterback with not even maybe the best weapons around him, although he does have a good offensive line and good running back. I feel like he should get more credit than he's getting right now, and
I don't think so,
um,
honestly. This game, it wasn't about Baker Mayfield. It was the whole reason they won this game wasn't even because of themselves. Uh it was just because of Ben Roethlisberger turning the ball over. That first snap, that's a sort of a freak play that doesn't happen um, all too often. And then, yes, you can give maybe one or two interceptions to him, but no other quarterback is going to give four interceptions on a daily basis. I mean, weekly basis to the Cleveland secondary, which isn't top tier by any means. So I don't know how much of the credit you can give to him. I mean, you can give him the credit for not messing up and not messing up without Kevin Stefanski watching over him, but honestly, I don't think you can put him into an elite or top 10 level quarterback just yet, based on this game alone.
yeah. I'm not saying yeah. I'm not saying it's top 10, but I'm just saying he maybe deserves more credit. Which game do you think out of all the 6 games was the most surprising to you in terms of the end result?
So probably the Titans Ravens game because other than that game, I expected every other team to win. Like even the Colts Bills game, I expected the Bills to win more, but they at least got the win, which is what I expected. Um, like this, even the Steelers Browns game, I called it as a Steelers win, but it wasn't because they necessarily got outplayed in ways other than the turnover battle, which the Steelers gave up a ton of turnovers and they just couldn't, especially early on, they couldn't rally back from that. But I when I woke up and I saw the rushing yards for Derrick Henry, I had to like close the app and open it again. I didn't think that was real. I thought that they missed like a one or something, and to me that was just the most surprising.
Yeah, the Ravens really turned the tide on that game, especially considering the last 2 games against the Titans in Baltimore both went with Derrick Henry having insanely exceptional games, and it just shows how important a player like Derrick Henry is to the Titans and how their offense kind of falls apart when he's not at the level that he usually plays at.
Yeah. All right, then that's all for this episode of this of the momentum shift. Thanks for listening and tune back in later for more episodes.